Hey, here I am in my car again. This has become the comfortable place for me. I don't know, it's the only place I feel like comfortable right now talking, as I do feel like I'm talking to myself. So until I get used to it, I'm just gonna hang out in my car so nobody can hear me from in the house. It's embarrassing. Anyway, hi, I'm Lauren, and I introduced myself yesterday as wanting to start a new YouTube channel, mostly because I just feel like I have been called to share my story and hope that maybe somebody else is out there just needs to hear what I have to say. I don't know. Anyway, so that being said, it's kind of hard for me to keep my train of thought, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna go out and go on a limb. But I think today I'm gonna talk about more of my younger life. I grew up in Chicago, in the city of Chicago, near Jefferson Park area, if anybody's familiar. I went to Our Lady of Victory Catholic grade school, and I went to Mother Guerin High School. So I had 12 years of Catholic school. My family wasn't really religious. My mom's Jewish, but non-practicing, and my dad was Irish Catholic, but, you know, I don't know that he actually ever read the Bible. I know his mother was very, very Christian, but I never knew her. I never knew my grandmother on that side. So my religious upbringing was a little weird. I went to Catholic school and we went to church every Sunday, and I did the first communion and I did confession and I did confirmation and all the sacraments. And when I was in my younger years of grade school, I felt very connected to Jesus. I felt very, very connected to religion. But even though we did all those things as a family, my family wasn't exactly supportive of any kind of religious fervor, right? So I remember being a smaller kid, and I got real excited. I was getting ready for First Communion, and there was a shop across the Milwaukee Avenue called Vans Ceramics, and it was kind of like one of those as you wish, paint your own ceramics type of place that kids love now. And in fact, my husband takes our children to one here in Madison. But I went over there and I found this cross. It was a crucifix, and it was probably about that big. I was pretty big. It was heavy. And I painted it and I had it fired, and I brought it home, and I was super excited about it. And boy, I got made fun of by my family, something fierce. It was just awful. But I stood by my faith, and I hung that cross above my bed in my bedroom, and I loved it. And until I didn't, it did start to give me the creeps when I was sleeping and I like Jesus looking down on me. It was a little unsettling. My bedroom was at that point in my life up in the attic. It was a finished attic, but it was still very attic-y. And I was always unsettled up in the attic. I felt that there were spirits there, and I still feel that there was something not good up in that area of the house. But that's a story for another time, I think. Anyway, I grew up Catholic, but not really, right? We did church, but it was like only surface level. So we were allowed to be Catholic as long as we didn't really believe it. It's so hard to explain this. Like, we'd be made fun of if you got too religious-y, right? So, I did believe as a kid, but I started kind of hiding it, I think, more and more. I had a rosary that I would pray often, always, as a smaller kid. And I continue to do that through my life, even though I would say to people that I was not religious, or that I was, I'm just spiritual, or I'm kind of agnostic. I still prayed the rosary regularly, especially in times of my life where I felt deep stress, which is, for me, that's often. I'm always stressed. That's my nature of being. So at a further point in my life, I was trying to, separate from my parents. I was trying to grow up, and find my own way. And I got this really, really like dumpy little apartment in Wicker Park. And, things weren't really going well. And I had this, like, the anxiety was overwhelming for me. And I remember just praying my rosary every single night. That's the only way I would ever get to sleep, is just being able to pray the rosary. And that gave me such peace. And I think that that's kind of why I want to talk about today, the topic of my video. I want it to be little ways that God has always been with me, even though I have denied him. I have not been honest. And one of those ways was by him guiding me to pray the rosary and being with me peacefully and bringing peace upon me when I prayed the rosary, it was one of his ways of being like, here I am, Lauren, here I am, come to me. I just didn't want to really listen. Another, another way that I feel like those subtle moments have been shown to me throughout my life is that I've always been called to churches. I've always been attracted to churches and cemeteries, especially cemeteries. And again, that's one of those things where, it was looked at as being, you're a weird little kid. But we would travel, and my parents took us everywhere. We went all around the United States and, outside of the country, went to Europe, and everywhere we would go, I would beg my parents to stop at the cemetery, right? And beg my parents to stop and let me go look at the old churches. I especially loved the Civil War era cemeteries. I love the gravestones, and I imagined who may be there and what their life might have been like. And in those cemeteries and in those old churches, I always felt connected, right? I always felt connected. I had friends that always tried to, they're strategically placed by Jesus to be in my life in hopes that they would convince me to come to the right side again. And unfortunately, I never listened. It never worked for me. I love those people dearly to this day. Those people that were in my life at that time and throughout my life are my most cherished friendships, even though many of them I don't talk to anymore. Jill is one of them. Jill Jarvis, hi, if you see this video ever, you're still an inspiration to me. And she took me to a Catholic mass. It was in Polish, and the grandmas, with the babushkas, and I just felt, I felt so much relief and so much peace, because again, that was such a troubling time of my life. I was going through it. I feel like most of my life I've been going through random stuff, just one self-induced negative experience after the next self-induced negative experience, and God was always knocking on that door, just waiting for me to come back, and I just never would listen. It took me until a couple months ago to finally go, oh, you've been trying to call me, and I've been ignoring the call this whole time, and I'm so sorry. I don't know if I didn't understand, or I just wasn't ready to hear it, but I did not pick up that call until recently, and I will probably post a million disjointed videos like this where it's just me rambling about my life experience. But let me jump ahead to when I met my husband, who is, my best friend, and I can't imagine living my life without him. I've been so blessed to have him, I'm so fortunate. Anyway, so, at this point in my life, I've gone through some hell. And I finally had decided I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be that person. I don't like who I've become. I'm making bad choices. I'm taking advantage of people. I am closed off to making connections with people. Everybody's always very surface level friends with me, and I would never let anybody get close. And I still struggle with that. I have a very hard time allowing people in. I have a hard time with people. I'm shy. And in order for me to feel comfortable, oftentimes it requires a lot of alcohol or other substances, and I guess I just got to a point where I was like, I'm done doing this. And I didn't realize that I was praying, but I had prayed. I had said to God, even though I didn't say the words, hey God, I know now that in my soul was asking for God's help. And I said, I'm lonely. I'm scared that I'm going to end up living my life poorly and that I'm going to have a tragic end, frankly. And I don't want that. I want to get married. I want to find my soulmate. I want to find somebody that I can be with, who I can know and who can know me, and that will love me for who I am, regardless of whatever, my weirdo hobbies are, or my quirks, or my tics, or, things that I do that would annoy other people. So I'm tired of hating people. I'm tired of assuming everybody hates me, and then I need to get them before they get me. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever been there. If you've ever been in a position of your life where you're like, I'm going to do some nasty things to this person because I know they're thinking that they're going to do that to me. So I'm just going to get ahead of it. I'm going to do it to them first. And that's who I was at that point in my life with most of the people that I had in my life. And I had started to recognize it, and I didn't want that anymore. And so I moved back from Arizona to Chicago again, to try to purge all of this, what I now recognize as demons, right? Like I had demons and I wanted to get rid of them. And so I moved back to Chicago with very little money, very little plans, and I tried my best to live there. But in that time, I had said, I'm going to be celibate. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to go out to bars and do the drinking thing. I'm just going to try to get myself together, really. And I did that. And while I was there, I was also living in an apartment in Ukrainian Village. And, I had like spirits there too. And I spent almost, I gotta say, about a year really just holed up in this little awful apartment. It was dirty. It was frightening. It was not safe. It was certainly not up to code. I couldn't find stable work. I worked at the airport de-icing planes for like a very, very brief period of time. Money wasn't steady or reliable. So I spent most of my time just kind of literally in the dark in this small little grocery store that had been converted to an apartment. And I did a lot of thinking, and eventually that all fell apart, and my parents came to save the day. They rescued me one of many, many times, and brought me back to Arizona and helped me get myself back on my feet again. And, within that time frame, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to start dating again. And I went on the dating websites and I found this guy who was super cute, and he seemed really personable and funny and charming and everything. He wasn't like by any means wealthy. He didn't have his life together, but we were fairly young, and I didn't care. He was nice to me. So I thought. So we dated for a while. Like on my birthday, I found out that he had taken some other girl to San Diego. Like for my birthday, he went with another girl. And so I was like a little broken about that. I really had high hopes for that relationship, and it didn't work out. But God had other plans for me, you know what I mean? So I was singing in a band. I was singing in like a jam band type of thing on Thursdays with my friend Rachel, and it was Chucky Baby and the All-Stars, if you guys know who that is. If you don't, you should look it up. Anyway, I was with them at a bar, and because I was at this bar, I ended up going to do like a karaoke show with my friend Rachel, and I met my now husband at that karaoke show. And, we did this whole roundabout, like a whole other story about how we ended up together. But like, it didn't seem fated, right? Everything was against us. So we met at this bar. I just assumed he's just another, douchebag at a bar. And I talked to him enough for a while, but all my friends had been kind of happy to see me. And so it was really just a random conversation. I didn't really think much of it. He never asked me for my number. So I left and I went home, and I didn't think about him again. Until a couple days later, a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, you remember that guy? He's asking if he can give your phone number to him." And I was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's fine." So he called me and we talked on the phone for a little while, and he seemed nice enough. I got to be honest, I wasn't like over the top interested. I kind of was just at that point where I'd given up. And I think I had said like, "Hey, I'm going to be at this bar on Thursday with my friend Rachel, and we're going to be singing with this band. If you want to come. If you don't, that's fine too." And so, that day came around, and I was just really tired. I had a long day at work, and I wasn't feeling like going out. I was in my introvert mode, and I was like, I'm not feeling like socializing. And so I kind of just bailed on the whole thing, and I stayed home. But my friend Rachel went, and she was like texting me. I was sleeping. She was texting me, "Hey, that guy's here. The cute guy's here. You should come." And I didn't get that message until the next day. So I missed that opportunity. And then, fast forward a little while after that, I don't even know. I don't know how we ended up reconnecting, but he tried again, and we ended up going for coffee. And it just became like this long drawn out, like, okay, we went for a couple dates, and I was initially thought I was the one who was going to be, I'm gonna make him wait kind of thing. You know, I'm not gonna do this whole like hookup thing anymore. So I'm just gonna wait. We'll do a couple dates and see where it goes. Well, I had only intended on going for like a couple weeks, you know, before I was like, hey, you want to be my boyfriend? But it ended up being like a month or two before he ever even like invited me out on a real date and to like go, you know, back to his house. I mean, so we didn't really connect in that way. I thought we were just gonna be friends. And I was like, at this point, fine with that. I liked him, but I wasn't gonna allow myself to get too attached to this idea. He had a young daughter, and he was very guarding of her, which I loved about him. I thought that was so, you know, responsible and thoughtful. And most guys that I met, if they had had a kid, they were like trying to get me to be the kid's mom immediately. So, you know, it was refreshing not to be thrown into that right off the bat. And, you know, from there, we developed a very rocky relationship, on and off, like troubles. We were really good together, and then we weren't really good together. But the one thing that we always had was our ability to talk it out, right? So we would always be able to, you know, come to each other and say, hey, you know, I'm not okay with the way this thing is going right now. What's up? Are we going to continue this relationship? Are we going to stop? And we would talk and we would hash it out. And him and I are very, very similar in that we're both very pragmatic people. And we're also both able to see other people's perspectives pretty well. So, you know, we went through some massive ups and downs over the course of our relationship. We've now been together for like, I think 13 years this year. We have 2 children we've just come such a long way. And like really long story short now, I recognize that God had said, hey, you're really trying to force this like relationship thing now on this other guy, and he's just not for you. He's not for you. This is the one for you right here. This is the one, right? And I honestly think that he was opposed to God telling him what to do too. You know, Tim and I butt heads, especially at the beginning, really, really bad. You know, like we never really fought, but we were at odds with each other sometimes, you know. But boy, we've come out strong, and that is a direct gift from God. That was God being like, this is me answering your prayer, lady. Listen, I'm trying to help you out, right? And I guess like that is my love story is, in my opinion, one of the best love stories ever. And maybe one day, if anybody's actually interested in it, I'll get into the whole thing and give you the ins and outs about Tim and I. And, you know, life is not a movie, right? So it's like God comes to you. It's not like an old man reaching out of the clouds and light beams and like, oh, it's these small things. I mean, that's not a small thing, but it can be small things too. It usually is small things. It's small things like, hey, there's a church there and your soul is telling you you need to go to it. And I would go to it, right? Like I would just need to go to it, feel connected to it. Everywhere I go, it's like, oh, there's a church. I got to go to that church. Are you religious? No, I'm not religious, right? Anyway, that's today. I'm sorry my videos are like a little disjointed. Maybe they'll get better. I probably should like write a script if I'm going to make this a thing. But hey, God is with us all the time. And it's just the point of my whole channel. It's going to be just to remind you, God is with us all the time. Even if you don't realize it, it is God's glory and God's work to put these things in your path. It may not always feel like this big grandiose moment, but it can be. And you don't know where these small little, like meet a guy at a bar moments become life-altering, drag you through kicking and screaming to your destiny. So here I am, God. I'm here to do your will. I know you want me to talk to people, and I hope I can get through to at least just one person. And if you would be so kind to help me reach those people that need to hear whatever random gibberish it is that I have to say, click like, subscribe to my channel, share my videos, help me talk to people about how good God is. And if you would also be so kind as to maybe give me some ideas on how to get my point out a little bit more clearly, how to make this a better channel for everybody. Anyway, Thank you. Have a good one. And I'll talk to you again either tomorrow or in a couple days. Thank you again. Bye.